Hey guys, so we're back and we're going to start doing some fun stuff to this duck now that we've got it isolated onto its own background. So again, I don't care what tool you use to isolate it, but we want our duck on its own background, and we're going to essentially kind of dress it up like it's going to a party. And to be able to do this and do this effectively, it needs a little bit more room, because right now it's pretty confined, right? It's just right on the edge of the tail here. We just got this little space and the head and all that stuff. So what I want to do is I don't want to make the image bigger. I want to make its canvas size bigger. So I'm going to go up to image and canvas size. And right now it is let's see, it's about 7 by 7.5. So I'm going to increase that by 12 by 12. And there's a little anchor here, and it's represented by this little dot. I want to keep this in the center, which means it's basically going to grow all the way around. And it says canvas extension color, and it's going to be the background color, which is white, which is fine because we don't care because we have a checkerboard background. So I'll say okay. And now look at all that extra space I have around our duck to kind of play around with. So what I want to do with our duck is I want to give it some character. And what I mean by that is I want to dress our duck up, because essentially I'm going to put it into a scene, but I want to practice layers while I do this. So I want to go through a handful of different kinds of layers. So we're going to do paint layers, we're going to do image layers, and then we're also going to do things like what we call adjustment layers. And I think I'm going to start there. So if you look on your layer palette, towards the bottom there is this little shape. It's a circle and it's half black and half white, and these are known as adjustment layers. And we have a bunch of options here. You can also access these things if you go to Window and Adjustments. And it's connected to a bunch of other stuff, so I'll get rid of that stuff. But what we have here is we have these adjustments that we can make due to our layer, like brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure, vibrance, and a bunch more. We discuss all these when we get to graphics too, but right now we just focus on a couple, okay? So one of the easiest ones to kind of show you bang for your buck is going to be this one here called Hue and Saturation. Again, you can access it right here from the Adjustments palette or from this little, I call this the black and white cookie. Scroll down here and click Hue Saturation. They both do the same thing. So let's just click here. And what happens is, let's see, a bunch of windows opened up on us. This thing called the Properties window opens. Device preview. Here it is. It was connected to all this other stuff. So let's close these things that we don't need. It's the one thing about Adobe that bothers me is that when, for one reason or another, when these things are connected, they stay connected. So anyway, so check this out. This is the Hue Saturation property panel. And so I have hue here, and I can move this back and forth. And check it out. I can change the color of our duck. And it's kind of funky because here I go into the greens, and it turns red. And here I go into the yellows, and it's going to turn kind of purple, violet, and then I go here into the oranges, and it turns blue. And now here in the blues, it kind of has a green, and in the violet, it's kind of got a cyan thing going on, and then we get back into the blues. So it's kind of odd, and all I can tell you is that's just the RGB CMYK kind of sequence. So if you want it to look kind of what you're expecting to look like, go ahead and you can check on this concept of colorize. And now as we move down the hue, we change the color, accordingly. Then we have this concept of saturation. So we can go ahead and we can make it a brighter color or a less bright color. Saturation has to deal with color, and see how it's nice and vibrant on this end, and that end it's all kind of grayed out. It's like having a sponge to suck up all our color or to add more to it. And then lightness, if we move it this way, it's going to make it a darker color. If we move it this way, it's going to be brighter, right? And if I don't colorize, and I just want this set at 0, okay, I can increase the saturation or take it away. I can just do that on its own. Or I can increase the darkness or the lightness. Again, I can do that on its own. But 9 times out of 10, I come in here to colorize. So I'm going to turn this thing into like the Incredible Hulk duck. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and make it green. I'm going to make it a little brighter green, and I'm going to go ahead and probably darken it up a little bit. And there you go. There's the Incredible Hulk duck. Now, I'd like to point out a couple things. One, that this essentially is affecting every layer that falls underneath it. Well, okay, whatever. That means it's just affecting the duck, right? Well, yeah, it is. But if you recall, there's another duck down there, and it's affecting that. So I just had it turned off, so you just didn't realize it. So I pointed out because if you only want this to affect exactly what's below it, which 9 times out of 10, that's all we want, then you want to click right here. This little button. It's like a square with an arrow that points down. We call this a clip. So if I click on there, now see how we have this little arrow and it's pointing directly down to that layer. Now I can click on this other background layer, right? And turn my other ducky off, and it's not even affected. It's only affecting the layer that it falls directly on top of. And I think I'm going to change the name of this from background copy to just ducky. Okay. And so you have to just understand that that's just kind of how the properties work. Now, if I want, I'm going to close the property window, and let's pretend that it's been a day, a week, a month, a year. It doesn't matter. I come back to this file and I'm like, I don't want that to be a green duck any longer. I want it to be red. So if I just go click, I can come here and then I can make it a red duck, which is great because what this does is this leaves us a backdoor. That thing I was talking about before, working with layers, it allows us the ability to go ahead and do that, or to come back and say, no, I want this to be an Incredible Hulk duck and I want it to be green. And we can come back and do that. And those are adjustment layers. And there's a bunch of other ones. I'll go through maybe 2 or 3 more in this class. And then again, Graphics 2 is really where we focus on those a lot more. Now, the adjustment layer has this thing with it, right? And this is called a mask. And I'm going to come back to that mask in a little bit. But first, what I want to do is I want to come back to my duck layer and do something a little kind of silly. So, I mentioned all different kind of layers that we're going to focus on in this video. So those are adjustment layers. The next one I want to show you is paint layers. A paint layer is simply a layer that I'm going to use the paint tools to do something with. So I want to make sure that I definitely do this stuff on its own layer. And to ensure that I don't mess up the duck, I'm going to put this big fat padlock on it, which will let me not move it, nor will it let me color on top of it or do something, odd unless I make a new layer. So I'll click on the new layer, and do you see how it's trying to do the whole pushing into the new into the duckly layer? It's just because I had this one turned on. In those situations, when I want to unclip a layer, I'm going to hold down the Option key, and I'm literally going to click in between the 2 layers, and you'll see this symbol here, and I'll just click, and then the clipping goes away. So watch this. I'm going to take my brush tool right here, and my brush tool is connected to this concept of brushes here, and I can increase my size, and I can increase or decrease my hardness. So basically, what you need to understand about size and hardness is pretty simple. And let's turn all our layers off except for this one. So let's start at about 100. This is what a 100-point brush looks like. That has got a hard edge, and this is what a 100-point brush with a soft edge looks like. Really similar, but not quite the same at all. They both, again, hold the same amount of pixels in them. It's just that this one fades away because it's a soft edge brush. Now, we can increase our brush size or decrease our brush size simply by going ahead and using the right or the left brackets. We can also increase or decrease our hardness by holding down the Shift key and tapping the right bracket or the left bracket. So let's try this, okay? So first let's increase our size. Select all that stuff, delete it. So here is 100% hard. I'm gonna shift and left bracket. That's 75% hard, 50% hard, 25% hard, and 0% hard. And essentially what this will do is it'll give us different feels as we're drawing stuff. So I'm going to turn my duck on, and I want to essentially give it like a monocle, okay, or glasses or something like that. So I can take my brush tool, right, and I can make it smaller. And I like to do that, honestly. I'm a visual guy, and pixels, and I've been doing this for a long time, right? It's not that pixels mean nothing to me. It's just that they're always changing. It depends on the kind of document you're working on. You know, like 15 pixels looks like that on this document, but on a different document it looks totally different. So I like to use the brackets to get a sense of how big my brush is going to be. And so, like, let's say I wanted to create glasses. So I can literally just go ahead and I can make like a crude circle here and here. And boom, our duck has glasses. It's really crudely drawn, but it's there, okay? Now, if I wanted to, I could do a much better job. And this is where I'm going to use selections, and you're going to see how I'm going to use a selection for a setup for, you know, doing something other than moving. So let's go ahead and undo this. And I'm going to take our elliptical marquee and just kind of do this with it. Oh, not that. Zoom in, try that one more time. Use our elliptical marquee and just pull it out just a little bit, just like that, right? And then I want to subtract. So I'm going to go find that center point again, right about there. And I'm going to click and hold the Option key and hold the Shift key so it goes in a nice kind of direction. And I'm going to pull this. And you're going to see like right away that that's not quite right. And so I'm going to try that one more time. And there we go. That's a little bit better. Now check it out. The selection is made. Now I'm going to take my paintbrush. I'm going to make a big fat paintbrush. And since there's a selection there, watch this, guys. Click. I can click all day long. And it's only going to it's only going to paint in the actual brush. Click, 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 click all day long. And only inside the selection will it paint. It won't paint outside the selection at all. And there I go. Now it got a little kind of chunky there just because I was clicking a lot. If I did that and I literally just did one single click, just gonna undo. There. If I did one click and I just went all the way around it, it would be a nice smooth edge that I could then go ahead and I can move around. So if I get one, I can easily go ahead and I can move this over here and get a second one. And check it out. I have 2 pair of glasses now. Nice, right? Now, these are on the same layer. Or they're not. Oh, look at that. What happened there? I just duplicated this, right? Shouldn't this have become the same layer? Well, no, because when I hold down the Option key and I move this, it's actually moving the object. Oh, that's kind of cool. And it is. So let's go ahead and let's continue working on this on these glasses a little bit more. Now, we learned in Graphics 1 that we can't just put a frame around an eye and call it a glasses, right? It just doesn't work. And any of you folks out there with glasses agree with me. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and we need to add a little bit in here to try to simulate the glass. So I'm going to again do this with layers. So I'm going to type on this glasses frame. Okay. And I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to literally call that glass. And I'm going to just start with a circle again. But we want a new selection. not add to a selection. And that'll work because I can move this around. And I don't need it to be black. I want to click on this. And I kind of want it to be in the blues a little bit, kind of like this. And I'm going to fill it. And I can go to edit and fill. And I can pick what I want to fill. And I'm going to just say my foreground color and say, okay. And there I am. Now, what I want to do here is I want to use some of my locks. Okay, and don't worry about that black glass in the back. In fact, or that black rim in the back, I'm going to get rid of that. So I'm going to use my locks here. And I'm going to lock my transparent pixels, which again makes it so I can't paint out here. And what I'm doing is I just want to go ahead and I want to paint in kind of like that highlight that we did when we were doing our Illustrator glasses. So I'm going to select this and I'm just going to move this a little bit lighter. Okay, and watch. I can only paint inside the actual pixels that exist here. So I'm going to click right here outside the glasses. And then I'm going to hold the shift key. And I'm going to click over here on the other outside of the glasses. And look, it creates a straight line. Whoa, why did it do that? Well, first let me explain, okay? So if you paint, you can paint a line, right? But let's do it on top of the duck so we can see a little better. If you paint, you can paint in a line, or I can do a single click. I can hold down the shift key and I can click again and it will make a straight line going horizontal or diagonal or vertical. It doesn't matter. Okay. So here, what I did is I just clicked on the out, and I make sure I lock those transparent pixels. I click on the outside of this, then I hold the shift key, and I'm going to make a diagonal right up there. And that's pretty cool. That kind of looks like glasses, right? Or a monocle or something like that. And I'm going to unlock it so that I can do some stuff with it. And if you recall, I have this rim. And I have the glass on top of it. Well, I want it underneath it. So I'm simply going to take the glass layer and I'm going to drop it below the glasses frame. And there it is. It sits in there. And that looks pretty fun. It looks pretty cool. It makes the duck kind of look like a James Bond villain, but at the same time, it's pretty fun. Problem is that I can't see through to the duck's eye, though. So this is where our opacity is going to come into play. And check it out. I'll go ahead and I'll bring this thing down to about 60%, and then we'll be able to see through the glasses to the duck's eye. I can even bring it down further. I can bring it down like, to 40% or something like that. It's totally up to you if you know what you want to do, but that looks better than if we just did that. That already looks better. It looks more believable. So we have the glasses frame and we have the glass here. Okay. Those two things are separate of one another, but they were kind of necessary to create the effect that we wanted to do. We can highlight the both of them and we can kind of group them together. We can do it two ways. One way I can do is I can just attach them via a link, which means that if I click on the glass layer and I go to move it, the glasses frame moves with it. And what I could also do is I could go down and I can select the glass layer and I can hold down the option key and go to make a copy and check it out. It makes a copy of the frame as well. So I have that. So now I have two parts. I have two frames and I have two lenses. Okay. And I can just move this around. I'm just using my arrow keys to move this around to make them independent of one another. And then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to create the bridge in between them, and I want to create, the holder for them as well. And I'm going to just do that on a new layer. And it's going to be just a black bridge. So I'm going to sample my color here. I'm going to sample this black again. And to do that, I'm literally using this eyedropper tool. I tap the letter I and I click on that, and it just samples that color. And it doesn't matter what essentially tool I'm using to sample the color, but I'm just going to go ahead and create this bridge from here to here. That didn't look great, so let's try that one more time. Maybe from here to here. That's a little bit better. And now watch. I'm going to go ahead and make that a little smaller brush just so I can control the drawing a little bit more. And there we are. And now, so I'll call this bridge and edge. So if I look at all my layers, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers associated with glasses. Okay, that's a lot of layers associated with glasses. And while some of them are connected to each other, they're not even all technically connected to, you know, the whole. You know, some of them, like the glasses and the glass frame here, they're connected to each other, but not the whole. So watch this. I'm going to select all of these things, highlight all of them. I'm going to click on this folder right here. This is known as a layer group. And I'll click on that, and I create a group. And that group will be known as glasses. And when I zoom out, if I want to turn the glasses off, I just hit the eyeball. If I want to turn them on, I click the eyeball again. If I want to open the group, there should be a little triangle here, or this little arrow, and then I can just literally open the group up, and I can still access them independently of themselves here, which is exactly what we want. So those are paint layers. Okay, so we have our adjustment layer, we have our paint layer. What happens if we put them both on? I just get Hulk Duck wearing glasses. That's all. Okay. So we have paint layers, we have adjustment layers. Now let's look at image layers and see how those things work. So I'm going to open up some stuff here for us. I found this image on the internet of this adult affordable Batman mask. And so I'm going to select our magic wand tool. I'm going to grab the background, and I'm going to grab the eye holes and select all those. I'm going to say select an inverse and do a Command J and jump our bat mask up to its own layer. Okay, so that way I know that's been cut out really easy. And then what I want to do is I want to take this and I want to move that into this layer set, so into that document. So I'm literally going to grab this and I'm going to just drag, and I'm dragging again with the move tool, and I'm going to drag up to this tab. And then when I get over to this tab, I'm going to just drop my mouse in the middle. I haven't let go of my mouse, and watch. There's the giant bat mask, and it's huge. It's ridiculously huge. And that's okay, because it's better actually that it's a little bit bigger than if it's a little bit smaller. So I want to scale this. So the easiest way to scale is via a transformation. So I want to go to Edit and Free Transform, or Command, or on a PC, Control T. And what I get is a bounding box, and we can only see part of it now. So I'm going to zoom out. So I'm going to hit Command and the minus sign, or Control and the minus sign, and then check it out. Wow, that's a huge Batman mask. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to go to a corner just like it's in Illustrator. If I hold down the Option key, it'll sync it to the center too. And here I go. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to bring it in here and zoom in a little bit. Again, I want the mask to fit the duck, not like so the duck has to, like, you know, completely be in the mask. But I want the mask to essentially fit the duck. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit too. And this is just a simple kind of thing that we're doing here. I can transform it. I can stretch it, right? But you got to be careful that you don't warp this thing and stretch it, too far. So I'm just going to stretch it just a little bit. And there I go. And I'm going to rename this from layer 1 to Batman mask. And I have a really, really, really kind of messed up looking Batman duck. Now, what I could do is I can go to edit, and instead of free transform, there's different transforms here. And I can pick a couple of them. So like I have, let's say, distort, which allow me to just pull on one side of the selection here, or pull on another side. So I have that ability, okay, to go ahead and distort this. And the reason why is because, let's be honest, this mask, it was straight on like this, and our duck is kind of tilted. So we have to play around with this just to make it, look like it's going to work out a little better. There's another one here, transform, this thing called warp. And what warp does is it basically puts like a mesh on here, which allows me to move this around. Ooh, that's kind of cool. See if this can work for me. You have to be careful when you warp things, because you can actually warp them like too much, and so they look kind of weird. But I think this is going to work out okay with this Batman mask. We'll see. Open up his eye a little bit. Pull this in just like this. I feel like the top here has to come in a little. And I'm going to hit this OK right here, or tap return on my keyboard. And there we are. And there, we've warped the mask and it fits on him a little bit better. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Do I care? No way, because this is a fun little demo. Do I want yours to look better? Sure. Because, I'm just doing one little piece, and it's just like the glasses were one little piece. You can go a lot further. And practice is going to make perfect. I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to try to complete my look with a cape. And this was kind of hard to find in general, because most of the time when you look for Batman cape, they're just sitting on Batman. And I kind of wanted, just the cape itself. So I'll select and inverse that, and then I'm going to move this right on over to my ducky. Cool. And I want this below the duck. And I can have it just kind of like this. That works. Or I can go ahead and go into those transformations again. And I think that warp is really going to sing here. There we are. There we are. Cool. And because when I think of a Batman cape, it's not flat. It's kind of like flapping in the wind. So it can be underneath him like this. Or I can do edit and free transform. And I can rotate it a little bit and maybe make it so it's like behind him like that. So like he's like, jumping into battle or something like that. That could work. Either way though, these are image layers. And I'll call it cape. And so this would be a way in which I can go ahead and I can add to the duck with images. This is how I could add to the duck with paint. And this is how I could add to the duck with an adjustment layer. All these are different kind of layers, but they all have very similar properties and very similar rules. And what you want to do essentially is your assignment is going to be to give your duck some character, infuse character in your duck any way you want. And you can dress them up. You can give them, I don't want you to give them like a scene. We're not looking for that. I'm just looking for you to give them some sort of character, essentially, to make them less of a plain yellow duck. I think I'm going to go with my Batman duck. So I'm going to have a mask. I'm going to have a cape. I'm probably going to get a symbol here, and I'm going to play around with that. I could also go ahead and I could take my glasses duck and I could play around with it a little bit further, maybe make a new layer here, and I could probably do something like this. and there I have a Harry Potter duck. And I'd probably give him a wand and possibly like a scarf and maybe a little bit of hair and stuff like that. That's one way to go too. I don't care if you paint or if you use images or if you, again, want to turn him into the Hulk. I'm cool with that, but I want more than just one layer. I want multiple layers built up. I would say probably a minimum of 3 or 4. And in the next video, we're going to take all that build up and we're going to condense them into more manageable layers so we can then move this to a different document. All right. And one last thing, this layer 1 that I just made, the little scar layer, that really bad scar layer, I want to get rid of that. So I can hit the trash can and it'll ask me if I want to delete the layer. And of course I'll say yes or no. And yeah, is what I want to do. Or if I have that highlighted and I tap the delete key on my keyboard, it's literally just going to make the layer go away. It's not going to ask me if I want to keep it or not. It's just going to make it go bye-bye. So that is something that you can do as well. So again, infuse the duck with character. Give it a life. You want to turn it into a hula dancer? Do that. You want to make it a skateboarder? Do that. You want to dress it up like it's Santa Claus? Do that. I don't care. Whatever you want to do, but you can either utilize on their own the adjustment layers or the paint layers or image layers, or you can combine them together. That works too. Whatever you want your duck to look like, just make sure that everything is on its own layer and you are not painting or drawing or editing this ducky layer directly, or else you're going to have to recut it out. Okay? Great. Thank you.